Story 1. I drive long haul out of Cortez, Colorado. Nothing fancy, just me, my rig, and whatever the dispatcher tosses my way. Been at it for almost 15 years now, mostly the Four Corners region. It's quiet, wide open, and you can make decent time through the desert if you know where the potholes are buried. This happened in late July, maybe 2018 or 2019. I remember it was hot even after sundown. One of those nights where the AC barely takes the edge off. I just crossed Shiprock and was heading southbound on Highway 491. Used to be Route 666, but folks started stealing the signs and saying it was cursed. The state changed the number, but out there, the road hasn't changed. Still feels haunted. Still feels wrong. I was running empty, headed toward Gallup for a pickup the next morning. No cell service, no towns for miles, just sagebrush, red dust, and the dark. It was maybe 12:15 in the morning. Dead quiet. Not a single car in sight, not in front of me or behind. I had my high beams on, cruise set to 60, then the sky exploded. Not lightning, nothing like that. It started as this orange flash way up in the clouds, but it wasn't just a flash. It grew. It swelled outward like something was inflating, turning into this massive burning ball that looked like the surface of the sun. I slammed the brakes just out of instinct. The road lit up bright orange, and I swear to God, I felt heat through the windshield. I leaned forward, trying to make sense of it, and right then, boom, it disappeared, like someone turned off a switch. Then, not even a second later, the entire horizon lit up yellow. And I don't mean it glowed, I mean it flashed. Every direction, sky to dirt, like someone set off a nuke and forgot to bring the mushroom cloud. I could see every ridge, every bush, every rock around me, lit up like noonday, then gone. Just pitch black again. I sat there frozen, engine idling, hands clamped on the wheel. You ever have that feeling where you're being watched, but there's no one around? That's what hit me next. This prickling in my neck like something was nearby, but just out of sight. Like I shouldn't have stopped. Like I wasn't supposed to see what I just saw. I rolled down the window a few inches, just listening. Nothing. Not even wind. That part of the desert always has something. Coyotes, insects, at least the engine ticking. But now nothing. It was like sound itself had died. I told myself it was a meteor, a flare, maybe military testing, but nothing explained the silence. Nothing explained that pressure in my chest that kept building, like something was getting closer. I reached for the CB and keyed up. Anyone southbound on 491 near Shiprock? Just saw something in the sky. Big flash. Anyone see that? Nothing. Not a peep. I tried again. Still dead air. I figured I was wasting time, so I let off the brake, eased forward. But something was off. I swear the road had changed. It looked the same. Same cracked asphalt, same yellow lines. But it felt narrower, claustrophobic. The desert around me felt wrong, like it was holding its breath. Then my radio kicked on. It wasn't the CB, it was my stereo, and it wasn't playing music, just static. I hadn't even had it on. The knob was still turned to off, but the speakers hissed like an old analog TV, and under the static, barely audible, something whispering. I slowed down again. Checked the clock. 12:17. Just 2 minutes had passed, but it felt like hours. I reached for the ignition, thinking maybe I'd pull over and reset everything. But right as my hand touched the key, the cab filled with this high-pitched tone. Not outside, inside. Like it was coming from every direction, vibrating through the glass, the dash, my skull. I remember yelling, just this panicked, wordless shout. I don't even know why. It wasn't pain. It was like my brain couldn't take it. Then just as quick as it started, it stopped. Silence again. Even the engine sounded quieter. That's when I saw them. Up ahead, maybe a quarter mile, right at the edge of my high beams. 3 figures standing in the road. No car, no lights, just 3 people shoulder to shoulder. I hit the brakes again, harder this time. They didn't move, just stood there. I flipped on the brights. They didn't flinch. I leaned forward and squinted, trying to make them out. They looked like people, tall, thin, but there was something wrong with the way they were standing. Too still, like mannequins. No shift of weight, no wind in their clothes, just frozen. I reached for the air horn and gave it a blast. Nothing. That's when I noticed the road behind them was gone. Not like a trick of the light, not dark, gone. Like the asphalt ended behind them, and beyond that was just black. Not sky, not land, just void. It looked like the desert had been cut off. I blinked, leaned out the window to get a better look. Still there. Still 3 figures. Still that nothing behind them. Then they moved. It wasn't a walk. They didn't take steps. They shifted. One moment they were standing still. The next they were about 10 feet closer, like a frame skip. My heart slammed into my throat. I jammed the truck into gear and floored it. The engine roared and I tore down the center line, straight toward them, figuring maybe I'd swerve last second if I had to. Except I didn't have to. They vanished. Not ran off. Not jumped. Just gone. No dust. No trace. I blasted past where they'd been and kept going, eyes locked on the road, heart punching my ribs like a drum. I didn't look in the mirrors. I didn't stop until I hit Gallup. When I got out at the truck stop, I nearly collapsed. My hands were still shaking. The guy at the counter asked if I was all right. I said I must have hit some wildlife, made up some crap excuse. I didn't tell anyone the real story, not until now. The weirdest part? I checked the dash cam the next day. It caught the flash in the sky, but nothing else. No static, no whispers, no figures. Just me driving in silence. Story 2, I live out in Alamogordo, New Mexico. Been driving long haul for about 15 years now. Don't drink, don't do drugs, don't scare easy. I've slept through thunderstorms in a sleeper cab with no AC, dodged elk on icy switchbacks in Montana, once pulled a guy from a flipped reefer in the rain off I-44. I've seen my share. Nothing ever rattled me too bad, until Kent, Texas. I was running a late load out of Tucson to Dallas, nothing out of the ordinary. It was one of those dry, lonely runs where your brain starts to slip sideways around mile marker 400. Sun had gone down hours ago. You know the stretch, flat, black, no lights for miles. Just you, your headlights, and the quiet scream of the tires. I needed to piss bad, so I pulled off at Kent. Not the gas station side. That place looked like it hadn't seen a cashier since 2008. I swung around to the dirt lot across the road, big enough for a couple trailers to park if you knew what you were doing. Shut down the engine and stepped out into stillness. No wind. Just that kind of thick, silent heat that sticks in your nose. I walked toward the bush line near the edge of the lot. Wasn't planning on lingering. You piss, you zip up, you get back in the cab. But something caught my eye just past the brush. Little glint in the dark. I stepped closer and saw it. A circle of rocks forming a crude fire pit, half-burned wood inside it, scorched but not fully turned to ash. Like someone gave up halfway through a bonfire. And sticking out from the char, clean as a whistle, was a dollar bill. Not crumpled, not burned. Flat and pristine, like it had been ironed. I froze. Something about it was off. I mean, it was in the firewood, but untouched. I took a step forward, just curious, but then something in me locked up, like hitting a tripwire in my gut. Just this overwhelming no. I mean a deep animal sense of back off. I actually said, "Screw that," out loud, turned away, and started doing what I came there for. That's when I heard something. Not loud, just footsteps, light, behind me. I turned fast. Nobody. Now look, I don't jump at shadows, but I wasn't about to take my time. I zipped up and started back to the truck. Then I saw it. Down by my boots, coiled tight, head up, eyes dead on mine. A damn rattlesnake. Less than 2 feet from me, not making a sound. Just watching. Not hissing, not rattling. Just still, like it had been there the whole time. Waiting. I stopped breathing. Couldn't even swallow. I inched back a step, slow as I could. not blinking. Took another, then another. Snake didn't move. I gave it a wide arc and started hurrying back to the cab. But that gut feeling came back even stronger. Like something was right behind me, like close enough to breathe. I didn't look. I ran. I straight up ran back to the truck like a rookie on his first overnight. I slammed the door, locked it, sat there panting in the dark. That's when I saw it. In the side mirror, just for a second, there was someone standing at the edge of the lot, way back by the brush, not moving. No light, no details. Just a shape, tall, still, watching. I turned to look directly out the window, and it was gone. Nothing. I cranked the engine, threw dust everywhere getting out of that place. Didn't even log the stop. Kept the pedal down all the way to Odessa. Next morning, I told a guy at the terminal about it, just offhand. He just looked at me and said, "You stopped in Kent?" "Yeah." He nodded slow. "Shouldn't do that." I asked why. He just said, "People don't stay there long." That's it. That's the story. Never went back. Never will. Whatever I felt out there, whatever was watching me, it wasn't something that should have been walking around at night, and I got no interest in ever finding out what it was. Story 3. I've been driving trucks across Australia for 11 years now. I live just outside of Newcastle. Quiet place, not much happening. The road is my job, and mostly it's boring. Long hauls, bad coffee, and the occasional near miss with a kangaroo. I never believed in anything spooky. I still don't know what I believe, but something happened to me 2 summers ago on the Hume Highway that I haven't been able to explain. And I don't talk about it much. Not because I'm scared people won't believe me, but because I hate remembering it. It was mid-January, dead middle of a heat wave. I was hauling a fully loaded B-double southbound toward Melbourne, scheduled to hit the outer suburbs by morning. I pulled off the highway around midnight to take a rest. Just one of those basic truck stops near Holbrook. No lights, no buildings, just a long strip of gravel beside the trees. You probably wouldn't even notice it if you weren't looking for it. I backed in, turned off the engine, and let the silence settle in. Not a single other rig or car around, just cicadas screaming from the bush and that thick, suffocating heat pressing in from all sides. Still 30 degrees, maybe more, even after midnight. My clothes stuck to me. The cab was already like an oven, but I needed to rest. I'd done this routine 1,000 times. I locked both doors from inside. I've got one of those rods we use for tightening straps. I keep it within reach, just a habit. Slid the curtains closed, kicked off my boots, and lay down on the bunk. I wasn't expecting to fall asleep straight away. I was too hot, sweating through the sheets. I stared at the ceiling, counting down the hours until I could get moving again. Maybe 10 minutes passed. I wasn't asleep. I hadn't even drifted yet. Just lying there, thinking about the route into Melbourne, trying to ignore how gross everything felt. Then, I swear on my life, the passenger door clicked. Not like a knock or the wind, it clicked. Handle turned, door cracked open, cabin light flicked on. I froze, just stared toward the curtain like my eyes could burn a hole through it. You ever had that kind of fear where your whole body goes quiet, even your breathing? I was like that, listening, waiting. The rod was still right next to me. I reached for it, real slow. I didn't hear anyone climb up. No footsteps, no breathing, no sound at all. I wanted to yell, "Who's there?" But I couldn't get anything past my throat. My heart was slamming so hard I thought maybe whoever was out there could hear it too. Then nothing happened. No movement, no voice, no hand pulling the curtain aside. Just that quiet hum of insects outside and the low click of the cabin light buzzing above me. Finally, after what felt like 10 minutes, probably more like 60 seconds, I couldn't take it. I grabbed the rod, threw the curtain aside, and stared directly at the passenger seat. Empty. The door was slightly ajar, open maybe 3 inches. No one there. I jumped out of the bunk, flicked the door shut hard, locked it, and immediately swung open the driver's door. I jumped out with my torch in hand, heart still going 100 beats a minute. I did a full circle of the truck, shining my light across the gravel, into the trees. Not a single sign of another soul. No tire tracks except mine, no footprints, no voices, just the dry leaves crunching beneath my boots. I even climbed up the side ladder and checked the back of the load. Nothing had shifted. Doors were sealed. I checked again that both cab doors were locked tight. I stood there in the dark, in the heat, sweat pouring off my face, torch beams shaking in my hand. Every instinct was telling me to get the hell back on the highway, but I was already pushing my legal hours and didn't want to risk a fine or worse. So I told myself maybe I'd left the door open. Maybe I was tired. Maybe it wasn't fully shut and the heat popped it open. Dumb excuses. But they were all I had. I climbed back in, locked everything, curtains drawn. I held that rod in my hands the whole time I lay there. Didn't sleep, not a second. I left at dawn, didn't even wait for my alarm. Got back on the road and never used that stop again. That truck had brand new seals. Doors don't open like that, not on their own. And even if they did, the interior light doesn't come on unless the handle's pulled from the outside. I've tested it. I tried to recreate it, hoping to prove to myself I was wrong. I wasn't wrong. That door opened. Something pulled it, and whatever it was, didn't finish what it started. I don't stop alone anymore. Don't care if it costs me time or money. I'll park next to 10 other rigs or I'll just keep driving. Because once you see something like that, something that doesn't make sense, suddenly every shadow on the road starts to feel like it's watching. Story 4. I'm Hugo, from Mendoza, Argentina. Been driving trucks most of my adult life, almost 30 years now. I've hauled everything from produce to chemicals across South America. Long roads don't scare me. The silence doesn't bother me either. But there was one night in northern Chile, near the edge of the Atacama, that made me rethink everything I thought I knew. This happened in 2016 on a contract delivery run down to Antofagasta. The trip out was smooth. Beautiful, actually. The desert out there is surreal, like the moon if the moon had bones and old rusted bus carcasses. I didn't waste time on the return trip like I usually did. My niece was getting married back home that weekend, and I promised I'd be back for the asado. No booze, no bar stops, just a few hours of sleep, then back on the road. That night, I pulled off about a kilometer from Route 5, somewhere past Bacadano, but not quite to Maria Elena. It was maybe 2 in the morning. I parked facing the open flatland. Not a soul in sight, no traffic either. Nothing but desert. I shut the engine, cracked the windows an inch, climbed into the sleeper and passed out almost instantly. I woke up to singing, soft, strange singing. It was hard to place. A woman's voice, maybe? It sounded like it was coming from the radio, but the truck was still off. No lights, no hum. Dead quiet except for that voice. I reached over to the dashboard, checked the radio. It was off. I turned the key halfway, still nothing. Then the singing stopped. A second later, it turned into a cry. It wasn't loud, just a short, sharp plea like someone saying, "Ayúdame, help me." That's when I sat up fully. I leaned toward the window, listening. Dead silence again. I turned the key all the way, engine started clean. Headlights flared up and cut across the empty gravel and brush in front of the truck. "Hola," I yelled through the window. "Alguien ahí?" Nothing. I figured maybe someone broke down nearby. A local maybe, or another driver, though I hadn't seen lights in hours. I got my boots on, leaned over to grab the flashlight, but something made me hesitate. Instinct maybe, or the fact that I couldn't tell what direction the voice had come from. I hit the high beams. At first, all I saw was flat nothing. Then just past the edge of the light's reach, right where the darkness picked back up, I saw something move. Not fast, slow. It was a person. Looked like a woman in a long, pale dress. She wasn't walking exactly, more like drifting. But what froze me wasn't how she moved. It was her face, or the lack of it. The shape of her head was there, the hair blowing a little in the wind. But from the shoulders up, where her face should have been, it was just this pitch black void, like a cutout, not shadow, just absence, like someone had smeared out that part of the world. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. She turned or shifted like she was starting to walk toward the truck. And I swear to God, the temperature dropped inside the cab. I was sweating from sleep and suddenly ice cold, shivering hard. "No!" I barked, not even knowing why. Just panic. I slammed the window shut, threw the truck in gear, and hit the gas. Dust flew up behind me, and I didn't look back once. I drove for 5 straight hours, shaking the entire way. Didn't stop till I hit Kalama, and even then I couldn't sleep. I parked in a full lot, surrounded by other rigs and lights, but my hands wouldn't stop trembling. I kept thinking about that face, or what wasn't there. I wasn't drunk. I wasn't high. I wasn't even tired. Not enough to hallucinate. I know what I saw. When I told my uncle about it later, he used to drive nitrate out of those old mining towns back in the 70s. He didn't laugh or shrug it off. He just asked me, dead serious, "Did you speak to her?" I said, "No." Just yelled once. He nodded. "Bueno. Good." I asked him what he meant. He just said, "Some things, if you answer them, they follow you home." That's all I needed to hear. I've never parked in the desert again. Never. I'll sleep at a gas station, a toll booth, even just leave the motor running and pull over near the road. But never again alone in that kind of open silence. Not after that. You drive long enough, the road gives you stories. Most are just stories. That one wasn't. That one was real, and I hope to God it only happens once. Story 5. I've been driving freight across Western Australia for nearly 20 years now. Perth to Karratha, Karratha to Broome. Long empty stretches where you don't see another pair of headlights for hours. I don't spook easy. I've slept in my cab on the Nullarbor with dingoes scratching around outside. But there's one night I still think about, and when I do, I feel my skin crawl like I'm back there. This happened 5 years ago. I was hauling a full load of machinery parts up to Port Hedland, left Perth late in the afternoon, planning to push through the night and make Meekatharra by sunrise. That stretch, some call it the loneliest road in the country, dead straight for hours, red dirt and scrub stretching in every direction. You pass the occasional roadhouse or turnoff, but mostly it's just road and bush. Anyway, I'd been driving for hours. It was sometime after 2 a.m. when I heard the bang, loud, sharp, like a gunshot. Left front trailer tire blew out. Not ideal, but not uncommon. Pulled over onto the shoulder and flicked on the hazards. Pitch black out there. Not even a sliver of moon. No signal on the radio. I keep a big LED floodlight in the toolbox for these situations. So I got that out and set it on the ground. Lighting up the tire. As I started unloading the jack, I had this strange feeling. Like I wasn't alone. You know that hair on the back of your neck stuff? It hit me hard. I paused, looked behind me. Nothing. Just red dust and shadows. The bush was dead quiet. No wind. No insects. Just my own breath and the faint tick of the engine cooling down. I told myself to stop being a soft bastard. Probably just tired, that's all. Got to work loosening the lug nuts. I kept glancing over my shoulder, though. Something felt off. The kind of off you can't explain. My light flickered once, just a little, but enough to make me stop. That light never flickers. It's a lithium work light with full charge. I tapped it, stayed solid. As I crouched to position the jack under the axle, I felt it. A hand, firm, cold, grabbed my left shoulder. I spun around so fast I nearly fell. The wrench in my hand flew out and hit the dirt. But there was no one there. No hand. No sound of anyone stepping away. I shone the torch around. Nothing. Just the edge of the bush, silent and empty. I stood there frozen for a full minute. Every instinct I had was screaming at me. Not like panic, not like nerves. This was different. It felt like something was wrong with the world itself, like the land was holding its breath. And then I heard it. Not footsteps. Breathing. Directly behind me. I didn't turn. I couldn't. I just froze, listening. Deep, steady breaths. Too close. Like someone was standing right up behind my neck. I said out loud, "Mate, I don't want trouble. I'm just fixing my truck and going." No answer. I took one step forward toward the truck. The breathing moved with me. Still behind me. Still too close. I dropped everything, wrench, jack, light, and ran. I've never run like that in my life. Sprinting in steel caps, nearly tripping over my own feet, I dove into the cab, slammed the door, and locked it. My heart was thumping so loud it drowned out everything. I sat there panting, gripping the steering wheel with white knuckles, headlights on full beam, and I saw it in the side mirror. Not a person, not anything I can really describe. It was like a figure, but not made of anything solid. A shape in the dark, darker than the dark around it. It stood right where I'd been crouched. No features, no movement, just watching me. I flipped the key and started the engine. I didn't care about the tire anymore. I'd drive on the rim if I had to. I put it in gear and rolled back onto the highway. As soon as I moved, the lights flickered. Again, all of them. Dashboard, headlights, even the interior dome light. Then everything went black for maybe half a second. Engine still running, but the lights went. When they came back on, the thing was gone. I drove, slowly, tire thumping, sparks flying from the rim. I didn't care. I drove 30 kilometers like that until I reached a small pullout with a solar emergency phone. I stopped there, sat in the cab until sunrise. Didn't sleep, didn't eat. Just sat there, lights on, doors locked. When the sun finally came up, I checked the tire. Rim was shredded. My tools were still lying on the ground back where I'd been. The LED light was smashed like it had been stomped on. I told my dispatcher I hit a kangaroo, took the rim to a shop and had it replaced. Never told anyone else what really happened. Not until now. Look, I know how this sounds. I know what people think when they hear this sort of thing. They think it's heat stroke, or fatigue, or nerves. But I've been on that road 100 times. I've had tires blow, run out of water, even seen mirages stretch across the whole highway. This wasn't that. This was something else. I don't stop on that stretch anymore. Not at night. I top up at Mount Magnet or Q, and I don't stop again until I see streetlights. Story 6, I'm Liam. I've been hauling freight for 18 years, mostly across the Dutch-German corridor, though I live just outside Groningen, in a small place called Foxhole. Nothing to see there but gray brick houses and wet grass. You get used to the quiet, the kind that settles in your bones. I never believed in ghosts, spirits, or anything like that. Never even watched horror movies. But something happened 3 years ago, in the middle of a frozen February night, and to this day, I've never driven that stretch again. I was running a backload from Hamburg to Eindhoven. Snow had come in earlier that evening. Light flurries, nothing major. Around 1:20 a.m., I was somewhere south of Bremen, on the B6. Not a well-lit road. It winds through forest patches and abandoned farms, and that night, there wasn't another truck or car in sight. The CB had gone quiet for over an hour. No music either, just the hum of the engine and the snow ticking off the windshield. I wasn't tired, oddly enough. I'd slept well the day before and drank a ton of strong, bitter coffee from a station back in Winson. I was sharp, focused. That's important to say because I wasn't hallucinating. I know what that feels like. This wasn't that. There's a section of road that cuts between two stretches of forest. It's narrow, just 2 lanes with metal guardrails on both sides. Trees lean in from either direction, thick and tall, like they're trying to block the sky. I was doing maybe 85 kilometers per hour, not too fast, just steady. And then the radio fizzled on, not music, not a voice, just static, like someone brushing their hand over the mic. I reached out to switch it off, thinking maybe the wiring had gotten cold, but the static stopped on its own. Then the truck jerked, like something had hit the back axle. Not hard, just enough to make me sit up and check my mirrors. But there was nothing. No vehicle, no bump in the road, just black trees and snow. I slowed a little, not braking, just easing off the pedal. And then something ran across the road in front of me. I only saw it for a second in the headlights. It was low, maybe waist height and pale, white or gray. It moved fast like an animal, but wrong. The limbs were too long and it didn't have fur, just bare skin. I slammed the brakes and felt the trailer slide slightly on the snow-dusted asphalt. My heart was hammering. I sat there in the middle of the road, hazards blinking, Looked out the windshield. Nothing. Not a sound. No animal. No footprints. I didn't get out. I'm not an idiot. I gave it 30 seconds, then crept forward. Lights on high beam. Maybe 100 meters later, I spotted something on the right shoulder. It looked like a pile of clothes at first, dumped there and frozen over. But as I got closer, I saw it was a person. She stood up, right out of the snow, like she hadn't been lying down, just crouched. A woman, pale as the snow around her, with long black hair, no coat, bare feet, a white dress, thin and soaked through. She stepped toward the road, and I swear to you, she was looking straight at me, eyes wide, lips moving. I froze. I didn't know if I should stop, help her, or keep going. I rolled the window down a little, maybe 3 fingers wide, and leaned toward it. "Do you need help?" I called out. She didn't answer, just kept staring. I felt this wave of nausea, like my guts dropped inside me. Then she opened her mouth wider, unnaturally wide, like her jaw was unhinging. And even over the sound of my engine and the hiss of falling snow, I heard her. She was laughing, not screaming, not yelling for help. Laughing like something had just told her a horrible joke. Her whole body started shaking. That laugh didn't sound human. It was high-pitched, gurgling, and it kept getting louder. I hit the gas. I didn't care if I was imagining things. I floored it and roared down that road like my life depended on it. Didn't check the mirrors. Didn't look back. Just drove until the forest ended and I hit the outskirts of Nienberg. I pulled into a 24-hour fuel stop, parked right under the lights close to the building. Sat there in the cab with the engine running, trying to calm down. My hands were still shaking. I kept telling myself it was a prank, some crazy local, maybe someone trying to freak drivers out. Then I checked the side mirror. There were handprints, 2 of them, small and pale, one on each side of the back doors of the trailer. I hadn't stopped. I hadn't gotten out. No one had touched the truck. They were wet, like they'd just been made. I didn't sleep that night. I called dispatch and told them I'd be late. Sat in that truck until the sun came up and other drivers started pulling in. Then I got out and checked. The prints were gone. No streaks, no residue, just dry, wind-chilled steel. I never reported it officially. Who would believe me? There were no cameras on that stretch and no one else on the road that night. But I'm telling you, it happened. Every part of it. Whatever that thing was, woman, ghost, demon, I don't care. It wasn't human. It didn't want help. It wanted to be seen. And once you see her, she doesn't forget you. That's why I never take the B6 anymore. Not at night, not even in daylight. Because once was enough. Story 7, I'm a long-haul trucker based out of Gallup, New Mexico. Been driving since I was 22. I'm 41 now. Never had much reason to fear the road. You learn to handle weirdos, weather, wildlife. But there's one night I won't ever forget. Still makes me lock my cab doors without thinking. This happened 5 years ago, early November. I was hauling reefer units out to Laredo, Texas, standard route. I'd left Albuquerque around noon and was planning to make it at least to Fort Stockton before I pulled off for the night. Somewhere east of Van Horn, Texas, the traffic thinned out like it always does after dark. That stretch of I-10 is empty at night, just oil pumps blinking red in the fields, distant lightning storms with no thunder, and the occasional 24-hour truck stop full of dead-eyed guys like me refueling and moving on. Around 1:40 a.m., I passed mile marker 315. I remember because I logged it, thinking I might need to stretch soon. That's when I saw the white sedan. At first, I thought it was parked on the shoulder, just sitting there, headlights off, no hazards. I slowed a bit as I passed it, just to get a look. Couldn't see much. Windows were tinted dark, like blackout tint, and the car looked brand new. Still had the temporary paper plate taped in the back window. Weird, but I didn't think too much about it. Just another driver pulled off to sleep or check their phone. Happens all the time. Then maybe 5 minutes later, I looked in my side mirror, and the same sedan was behind me. No headlights. I blinked. Thought maybe I imagined it. I flipped on my rear floods for a second, and sure enough, it was there. About 30 yards behind me, keeping pace, headlights still off. That's when the hair stood up on the back of my neck. "All right," I muttered, flipping the floods back off. I tapped my brakes lightly to see if they'd react. They didn't. I sped up. Nothing crazy, just brought her to 75, then 80. The sedan kept pace. No hesitation. I grabbed the CB mic. "Anyone got eyes on a white sedan? No headlights, tailgating westbound mile 320? Silence. No chatter." I scanned the channels. Still nothing. That's when they cut into the left lane. I watched in the mirror as the white shape drifted up beside me. No lights, still completely dark, and pulled alongside my cab, keeping perfect speed. I turned my head. All I could see was darkness through those tinted windows. Not a shape, not a face, just black glass. Then they drifted into my lane, right into me. Shit! I jerked the wheel right, hard enough to make my tires scream on the shoulder. The sedan swerved back into their own lane and fell behind. I got back on the road, heart hammering, hands shaking. I hit the gas. 85 now. 90. They matched me. I couldn't shake them. Every time I slowed, they'd slow. Every time I sped up, they'd follow. Never close enough to touch, but always there. Same distance, like they were towing an invisible chain. I flipped on my cab light and opened the glove box. My .357 was in there, unloaded. I didn't carry it ready, never had to. But right then, I slid a few rounds into the cylinder, one by one, and placed it in my lap. I didn't care if it was illegal. I didn't care if it was dumb. Something about that car wasn't right. Eventually, I saw an exit sign, some old county road. No services, just a turnout. I took it anyway. Turned off the highway, drove a quarter-mile into the pitch black. Then I killed the engine. Lights off. Silence. I waited. 10 seconds. 30. Then I heard them. Tires on gravel. Slow. Deliberate. A low crunching sound like someone stepping through dry bone. I looked in my mirror and saw headlights now. They'd finally turned them on, but they weren't aimed at me. They were aimed past me, like they were just driving down the road casually. But then they stopped. Not beside me, not behind me, just ahead, blocking the road. I could barely breathe. I reached for the revolver, cracked the door, and stepped out. The cold air hit me like a slap. I took maybe 5 steps forward, keeping the truck behind me, my eyes on the car. Then their headlights turned off, and the taillights came on. Then, nothing. No sound. No movement. I aimed the revolver. "Hey," I shouted. "You lost or something? You got a problem?" Nothing. I took 1 step closer. Then I heard a sound I can't explain. It was like a hum, but not mechanical. It felt biological, like a vibration inside my chest, inside my head. My vision went sharp and fuzzy at the same time. Then the driver's side door opened, but no one got out. It just stayed open. I raised the revolver higher. "Don't move!" No response. Then, fast, too fast, the door slammed shut. And the car? It vanished. I don't mean it drove away. I mean the headlights came back on for a split second and then, poof, it was gone. Like it blinked out of existence. I just stood there, sweating in the cold. I didn't move for a full minute. Then I slowly walked back to my rig, climbed in, locked the doors, started her up, and got the hell back on I-10. Didn't stop until daylight. Never saw that car again. Never got an answer, and no one believes me. Not my dispatcher, not my wife. Hell, I barely believe it myself. But I still remember the way the air felt when that car disappeared. Like the world skipped a beat, like reality glitched. I don't take night hauls through Texas anymore. Not after that. Story 8, I'm Frank DeLuca, based out of Bayonne, New Jersey. Been driving trucks 28 years. Tankers, dry vans, flatbeds, you name it. I've hauled freight through all lower 48 states and seen some weird crap. But nothing, and I mean nothing, ever rattled me like what happened off Interstate 80 in Pennsylvania. It was March 2022. I just dropped a load in Indiana and was deadheading back to Jersey. It was close to 3 a.m., and I'd been pushing hard through the mountains all night. My eyes were burning, and I figured I'd catch a few hours of sleep before the sun came up. I spotted a pull-off on the side of the highway. Not a rest area, just one of those gravel clearings with enough space for 3 rigs. 2 trucks were already parked, so I slid in behind them, killed the engine. The place was dead quiet except for the wind moving through the trees and the occasional whoosh of a distant semi speeding by on the interstate. I climbed into the sleeper, shut the curtain, and laid down. I don't even remember closing my eyes. Next thing I know, I'm wide awake. Not groggy, not drifting, just awake. Something had woken me, but I didn't know what. Then bang! Hard! Against the passenger side door. I shot up like a bolt. My heart was instantly in my throat. I grabbed the mini bat I keep near the bunk and peeked through the curtain. Passenger side, nothing. Just the dark outline of the trees in my mirror. No movement. Then, bang, on the driver's side. I spun and yanked the other curtain open. Nothing. Now I'm sweating, heart pounding. I'm thinking, maybe a hitchhiker messing around. Maybe some drugged-out idiot trying doors. But I didn't hear footsteps. No scuffling, just silence. And then it happened. Both sides, simultaneous. Boom, boom. The truck rocked. Not just a little rattle. I'm telling you, the entire cab jolted like someone threw their full body into it. It was violent. Loud as hell. The walls vibrated. I gripped the bat and stared out both windows. Curtains wide open now. Nobody. No feet on the gravel. No shadows, no motion. Just those 2 trucks in front of me. Their brake lights off. Nobody stirring. I whispered, "What the hell is going on?" I remember hearing myself say that out loud. Then it hit again. Both sides. Boom! I jumped into the driver's seat, started the engine. As soon as I turned the key, no joke, the trucks in front of me both lit up. Simultaneously. Headlights on. Brake lights flash. Engines roaring to life. I didn't wait to see what happened next. I threw it in gear and pulled out fast. The other trucks pulled out too, one after the other, like we all had the exact same thought at the exact same second. Get the hell out of there. We didn't stop. We didn't honk. We didn't look at each other. We just hauled ass down the highway back into the night. About 20 minutes later, I pulled into a proper rest stop, the kind with vending machines and lights. I parked and just sat there, breathing heavy, gripping the wheel like I'd just escaped something. One of the trucks that had been in front of me pulled in too, parked a few spaces down. Guy stepped out and lit a cigarette. I got out, walked over. I said, "Hey, you felt that too? Felt that?" He just looked at me. No nod, no grin. His face was pale. He didn't say a word. Just flicked the ash off and said, "It wasn't human." That's it. That's all he said. Then he got back in his cab, shut the door, and didn't come back out. I didn't sleep that morning. I drove all the way back to Bayonne and parked the rig. Sat in the kitchen with my wife and tried to explain it, but it came out sounding crazy. I mean, what do you even say? I keep going back to it in my head. If it was someone screwing around, where were they? There's no way someone could bang both sides that hard and vanish instantly. And the timing, the other truck starting up at the exact moment I did, it's like we all felt it at the same time. Like whatever it wasn't just messing with me, it was showing itself to all 3 of us. I haven't parked in an unlit pull-off since. I'll drive through the night, risk the fines, anything. I don't care. I'm not stopping in the dark again. Story 9. I'm not a guy who believes in ghosts or any of that crap. Never have. I'm 47, live outside Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I've been driving rigs for close to 20 years now. Night shift is my thing. I like the quiet, the empty roads, less hassle. But after what happened that night on Interstate 40 near the New Mexico border, I haven't driven nights since. It was around 1:15 a.m., early March, somewhere between Gallup and Grants. I was team driving with my buddy Kyle, but he was asleep in the back bunk. We were hauling dry goods cross-country, and I had a solid 7-hour stretch to cover. Nothing new. I had Art Bell playing low on the Sirius XM. I always liked the weird stuff, aliens, EVP, shadow people, even if I thought most of it was BS. That night they were talking about these guys who take digital recorders to graveyards. They'd leave the recorder running and supposedly catch voices. Kids' voices, some of them, crying for help. I remember thinking it was a little too creepy for my usual taste, but I kept it on. Around that time I passed a rest area. Empty. Just a couple of lights humming in the cold dark. Didn't think much of it. Few minutes later I saw a figure standing on the shoulder up ahead. That's not too rare. You see hitchhikers or folks whose cars broke down, though you don't see many that late at night in that part of the country. But as I got closer, I realized something was off. It wasn't a man. Or maybe it was, but he wasn't moving, just standing there facing the road. I slowed a bit instinctively, thinking maybe he needed help. But the second my headlights hit him full on, I felt this chill, like my body just rejected what I was seeing. He was standing stiff, too stiff, and wearing what looked like a gray jumpsuit, kind of like prison clothes. His face was pale, dirty, and his mouth hung open a little. I swear to God his eyes were rolled back, completely white. But he wasn't looking at me. He wasn't looking at anything. Just standing. I kept rolling, passing him slow. I couldn't stop staring in the mirror, just trying to make sense of it. He didn't move. Didn't even blink. And then, about 15 minutes later, I saw him again. Same man, same posture, same jumpsuit, same goddamn pale eyes. Just standing on the side of the road like I'd never passed him at all. I slammed on the brakes, hard enough to wake Kyle in the back. He shouted, "What the hell, man?" I didn't answer right away. I was staring in the side mirror, heart pounding so hard it was echoing in my head. But the figure was gone. "Something in the road?" Kyle asked, climbing up to the passenger seat in his sweatpants and bare feet. I must have looked white as a sheet. I couldn't lie. "I saw a man 15 minutes back. Same guy. I just saw him again." Kyle looked at me, confused. Like, walking? Number standing still. Not hitching. Just there. Same spot twice. He raised an eyebrow. "You sure it was the same guy?" I didn't answer. He looked out the window, rubbed his eyes, then said, "All right. Pull over up ahead. I gotta take a leak anyway." There was a dirt pull-off just ahead. I eased the truck over, flashers on, engine idling. Kyle jumped down and walked toward the brush. I lit a cigarette with shaking hands and stared into the dark. The Art Bell show was still playing low. More voices. The guys on the radio were playing another EVP clip. This one sounded like a child whispering, "He's not sleeping." Right then, the interior lights in the cab flickered. Then the engine cut out. Just died. All at once, the cab went dark and silent. I turned the key. Nothing. Dead. The hair on my arm stood up. I fumbled for the flashlight in the side pocket and clicked it on. I was about to yell for Kyle when I noticed something in the mirror. Not 20 feet behind the trailer, standing right in the middle of the road, was the same man. His head was tilted slightly now. That's the only thing that had changed, but it made my blood run cold. The tilt was wrong. Too far over, like the neck didn't have bones anymore. I jumped out of the cab and yelled, "Kyle, get back here, now!" I could hear him crashing through the brush, running, shouting, "What's going on?" He climbed up into the truck, panting, saw the guy on the road and froze. "What the hell?" I didn't wait. I tried the engine again. Still dead. That's when the headlights blinked once, like a dying breath, and turned on. Only they weren't white anymore. They were this sick, dim orange, like a flame burning underwater. And then I heard it, a sound I will never ever forget. It wasn't the radio. It wasn't Kyle. It was coming from inside the truck, right behind us. A voice like a whisper scraping across metal said, "Don't stop!" Kyle and I both turned at the same time. The sleeper curtain was open. There was nothing there. No one. But the air was freezing. The kind of cold that doesn't make sense in New Mexico. And then everything came back on. Radio, engine, lights. Like nothing had ever happened. We hauled ass out of there. Didn't speak until we crossed into Arizona. No joke. We drove 4 straight hours without saying a word. Finally, Kyle muttered, "We didn't stop again after that, right?" "No," I said. "We didn't stop again." We reported it to dispatch as an electrical failure. Never told them about the man, never told them about the voice. I still drive, but only day shifts. I don't care about the pay cut. Whatever I saw out there on I-40, it wasn't something a man's supposed to see, and I'll never ever pull over again for anything on that stretch of road. Story 10. I'm Mike Rollins, out of Pueblo, Colorado. Been hauling freight nearly 20 years now, mostly solo runs across Texas, Oklahoma, and New Mexico. I don't scare easy. You can't afford to when you're running long haul through the dead hours, watching the world disappear in your mirrors. This happened in July of 2017. I was coming back up from Laredo, hauling an empty flatbed back to Denver. I'd made good time through Amarillo, but started feeling that fuzz behind the eyes around Dumas. Any long hauler will tell you, that edge of sleep haze is when things start to feel strange. I spotted a little stop on the side of the 287. No name, just a rust-bitten overhang and a single pump with a busted card reader. Fluorescent light buzzed above it like a fly trap. I figured I'd nap a couple hours before the final leg. There was an open gravel patch behind the station, maybe 40 yards wide, but nothing behind it but flat Texas field. No houses, no fences, just black land rolling out forever. I backed in, locked up, and crawled into the sleeper. The rain started around midnight, that warm, steady Texas summer rain. It's good sleeping weather if you can ignore the bugs bouncing off your windshield. I was out cold within 5 minutes. At 2:13 a.m., something tapped on my driver's side door. Not knocked, tapped. Light and metallic, like someone rapping a ring or key against the side panel. It was just enough to wake me, not enough to alarm me. At first, I thought it might have been the rain hitting a loose bracket or something on the trailer. I sat up, wiped my face, peeked through the curtain. Nothing. The station lights were still on, no movement. I was halfway back to sleep when it came again. Tap, tap, tap. Slower this time, a beat, like it wanted me to notice. I sat up fast, grabbed my mag light off the hook. Didn't bother with boots, just slipped on the rain jacket and popped the door. The moment I stepped out, I knew something was off. The air felt thick. Rain was still coming down, but there was no wind. Not a single insect buzzed. It was dead quiet. I shined the light around the truck. Nothing. Nobody. The only footprints in the gravel were mine, from earlier when I fueled up. I walked the full length of the rig, checked the trailer latches. Dry as bone inside, secure. Nobody could have stowed away. I stood out there a few minutes, just listening. All I could hear was the rain hitting the roof of the cab and the buzzing light at the pump. No wind, no trucks on the highway, no coyotes howling, just a quiet so deep it made my ears ring. I got back in, locked up. This time I racked the shotgun behind the seat. I'm not the paranoid type, but if someone was screwing around out there, I wanted them to know I wasn't playing. Sleep came slow. I remember glancing at my dash clock. 3:28 a.m. The bang this time wasn't tapping. It was a slam, like a tire iron hitting the side of the bed, hard enough to shake the trailer. I grabbed the shotgun, threw the door open and shouted, "Back off, I'm armed." Nothing. Rain was heavier now, running off the roof in sheets. I stepped down, scanned with the mag light, hand tight on the grip. Still no one. But when I turned the beam toward the back of the lot, toward the field behind the gas station, I saw them. Boot prints, clear as day, leading from the tall grass up to the side of my trailer. And they weren't mine. I wear pointed-toe Ariats. Always have. These were square toe, big wide heel, deep tread. Fresh enough that water hadn't filled them in yet. But here's the thing. There were only prints coming in, none going out. I followed them with the light, heart thudding so loud I could barely hear the rain. They ended about 3 feet from my back tire. Just stopped. No turn, no scuff. Like whoever left them had sunk straight down into the ground or vanished into thin air. I didn't sleep again, just sat in the cab with the shotgun across my lap until the sky turned gray. At first light, I got out to inspect the bed. One of my tie-down chains had come loose, like someone had lifted it and dropped it on the gravel. That's what I must have heard. When I rolled forward to pull out, I saw something lying behind where the trailer had sat all night. It was a boot, a single square-toed, mud-covered work boot. No foot inside, no name in the lining, just damp leather, scuffed like it had been dragged through gravel. And around it, more prints, some fresh, some older, all going nowhere. I left it there. I don't care what it meant. I didn't touch it, didn't report it. I put my rig in gear and didn't stop until I hit rate and pass. I've been through that stretch of 287 plenty of times since, but I don't stop anywhere near Dumas anymore, not even to piss.